Hey guys, and welcome to episode 11 of my Bristol Rovers FM20 playthrough. My name is James, and in today's episode we have the season review and summer transfer window going into our first season in the Championship. This is obviously going to be a massively important transfer window. It's the first time I've had a proper chance to maybe try and clear out some players, especially those that got out of contract or those that I felt hadn't really produced much this season, and really kind of take the opportunity to put my own stamp on the team. Obviously, we've done fantastically well with the players that we had here, and a lot of those players will be given opportunity in the Championship to really to prove they can make the step up to the next level. But it'll be interesting to see, based on what budgets we get, we'll see what the board is giving us when it comes to trying to survive in the Championship next season, and it is going to be I mean, I kind of take that. It's far more than we're currently we were last season in terms of wage budget. That's actually thinking about it. I'll take that. Especially based on that, I can kind of expect them not necessarily to make us flush with cash, but hopefully we can sell a few players. We'll add a bit more into the coffers. But do you know what? I'll take that for. I think we can definitely play with the free transfer market as well, and hopefully bring in a few players. We'll see how the transfer window unfolds. Right, I'm going to jump forward to the end of season awards. Right, just before we get into the awards, let's look at who has had the most impact this season. In terms of goals, we know it's only one man. This is my only concern for going into next season. Yes, we've had a smattering. Barrett scored a few, almost 10 for Zane Walker as a youngster is great. Janelli, we might not necessarily get back next season, so he's not necessarily one that would have an influence next season. Upson's had a couple, but he will come up in a minute. But the 34, Clark Harris, I was so happy. We had it confirmed a couple of minutes ago that he's now signed his new contract till 2022, so we have him for another 2 seasons at the very minimum. But what a season. 44 games in the league, 26 goals, 3 assists, 5 players a match, a 7.17 average rating. Overall, we're talking 52 games, 2 from the bench, 34 goals, and a 7.24. But he is actually now classed as a good player for most Championship sides, so I'd expect him more than anyone to make that step up, and hopefully we can build a okay Championship side around him to the point where we could hopefully survive relegation. But we're interested to see what the board expect from us. In terms of assists, again, we had a couple of big contenders. Ed Upson, at 30 years old, this man has been fantastic this season. 37 games he's played, 3 goals, 7 assists, 4 player of the match, and a 7.11 average rating. And the other one was Mark Little, again, another 30-plus player who's really stepped up. I wasn't sure about him at the start of the season, but he's again played 40-odd games, scored a hatful of had a hatful of assists, a couple of player of the match awards, not quite the 7 average rating as some of the others, but he's still played really well, and he'll definitely be a contender for a starting spot next season. Outside of that, we've had a couple of others as well. Kingsley, unfortunately, won't get back because he is now going off to Cincinnati in the MLS. We've then got Ollie Clark, Zane Walker again, both goals and assists from him, which has been great. And Rodman has only played 14 games and 12 from the bench this season. He's had a few injuries. I think he's going. At 33, he's not going to stick around, so we'll be looking for either one of the youngsters to step up or bring in a replacement for him. And then outside of that, that's kind of the rest of the runners and riders. In terms of average rating, it's the same contenders: Ed Upson, Clark Harris. Kieran Phillips has done well in a couple of games he's come on, but he hasn't played much this season, but still got almost half a dozen goals. We've got Ollie Clark. Kilgore has played very well this season, even though he made a mistake in one of the final games of the season that I think was the final game that cost us that game, but it still didn't cost us the title, which was good. And then Harry's, I get the feeling that's going to be our back two next season, unless we can find a significant upgrade. I think we're okay at centre back, but we'll be looking at the team report a little bit later. And then again, Barrett and Matthews, again, players who Barrett's had a couple of injuries, but he's played very well. And Matthews, for the fact he didn't play for the first half of the season, he did come in and play and put in a shift for us, which was great. Right, moving into the awards, it's as I probably expected, although surprisingly I expected Jonathan Clark-Harris to be in first, but Ed Upson is fans player of the season, 35%, and Clark-Harris with 31, and then Alfie Kilgore making up the three with 23. Goal of the season was a go-go. He scored. Our midfield has had a habit of scoring screamers this season with Upson, Clark, and a go-go. This one was earlier on back in February, so it'll be interesting to see what this goal was all about. So Walker brings the ball forward. Currently losing at this point to Tranmere. Ball across to a go-go. Smashed into that. I mean, you could have picked half a dozen goals we scored like that this season. We really did score some absolute screamers. But big congrats to a go-go there for goal of the season. And then young player of the season, Cian Harries, who again, as I said, I think him and Kilgore are likely to be the back two, as they are in the team of the season. So team of the season, Jacola in goal, back four, Kingsley, Harries, Kilgore and Little, a go-go, Clark and Upson in midfield with Walker, Janelli and Clark-Harris. Bar, I think Walker and Kingsley, who didn't start in the last game of the season. That's pretty much the team that started for that match. Season review, obviously far exceeded expectations for most of the season. We lost in the third round of the FA Cup to Wigan, which was no hardship there. We did lose to Exeter in the first round of the Carabao Cup. That's really the only disappointment, I would say. We obviously won the League One title, which was far more than was expected of us. We'd only expected a playoff place. And then we lost disappointingly in the end in the penalty shootout after winning back-to-back penalty shootouts in the previous rounds of the leasing trophy, and that won't actually be something we'll be in this season with being in the Championship, so that's a shame we couldn't have won that while we had the chance. So 9,000 average attendance, again that's good. Hopefully we'll see an increase in that coming into the Championship this season, especially as, let's find the league table, Bristol City are in there. That is going to be a massive game next season. We'll be having the Bristol Derby next season because, as you can see from the club info and from anyone who's associated with Bristol Rovers, fierce rivals there. So that'll be a massive match, and we'll have both of those on episodes throughout the season. So club vision and expectations. Let's have a look. So they want to sign on 23 players for the first team. That's the same as last year. Make most set pieces. Play high-tempo pressing football. I'm sure we can manage that. We played very similar this season. Work with the wage budget. Sell players before buying. Absolutely fine. We definitely be having a clear out this season. That'll be fine to try and bring the wage budget under control a little bit more. They want us to avoid relegation. So there is an expectation that we will avoid relegation and continue in the Championship. I don't think there's anything change-wise I want to make there. So I will say accept vision. In terms of the squad dynamics, so we've got Ed Upson, Clark-Harris and Ollie Clark. All three of those have now signed a new contract, so they'll be here for at least next season, with, I believe, at least two of the three having, I think Upson's only got an extra year, but Clark-Harris and Clark have 2 years on their contract now, and a selection of the highly influential players who will still be here. Rodman's going, though. Craig is going, but Little, Jacola, Kilgore, Agogo. Agogo has changed my mind in the last couple of games. Even though we didn't win any of them, he did come in and played really well. Janelli won't be back, obviously having been on loan, and then again Kingsley as well. So there's at least half those players are going. So hopefully we'll have a few more step up into that role. Plans for next season. What do we say to the lads? Right, I think yes, you've done brilliantly to get us promoted this season. You'll deserve a break. Hopefully when we get back, there'll be some new faces around and can help us stay up. I think that is the best one to say. They're all happy with that. That's the sort of the action I was after. They're buzzing, going off into their break. Let's pick, where are we going? So we've got Scotland or the southwest of England. Let's go to Scotland on our pre-season tour. Why not? Right, well, I'll try and keep you up to date with any other news that comes in. But if nothing happens to you now and then, it will be probably when the players come back at the end of June. Where we can set up some friendlies and then wait for the 1st of July for the players that are going to be released on free transfers. So it looks like we've got some records to go with the end of season awards. Clark-Harris, 34 goals this season, breaks the team record. Upson has set another team record with 14 assists. Clark Harris has set the Player of the Match awards record for 8 in a season, and Jacola has set a record for 20 clean sheets. So we have the commercial summary. We've had a new kit sponsor worth 180k. That's obviously all goods coming in. All these are green and on the way up, which is fantastic. I've had 2 new deals worth 325k, and last year we made £365,000 in terms of total merchandise, and the top selling shirts were Clark Harris, Barrett, Ginelli, Upson and McCormack. McCormack was probably the most surprising one. Maybe he carries some reputation from having played for so long. Ginelli is one that I will try to see if I can get back on loan again. But with Preston going up to the Premier League, hopefully it might give us a second chance to have him in the Championship. But they may want to look at him himself, so that will be one to watch. It's the 31st of May, and we've actually had a loan now agreed with Preston for Ginelli. He's coming back in for another season on 80% wages at 2k a week. So that is great news to start off the transfer window so far. We've also had a couple of other notifications come up. Clark Harris, unsurprisingly, takes the top goal scorer award with 26 goals from 44 games, leaving Ivan Toney at Peterborough and Ennis at Doncaster really in his shadow with 20 and 18 goals respectively. So let's give Clark Harris a pat on the back for a fantastic year. And I had a notification that's come up on Steam as well. Look at the beauty of that. So the players named in the League One Team of the Year include Jacola, Kingsley, Kilgore and Little. That's almost our entire back five if you include Jacola. Our central midfield team of Clark and Upson. Then the star, which is Clark Harris up front. That does show how well we have actually played so far we did this season, and how much we overachieved. Okay, it is the 10th of June. I believe it was yesterday the transfer window opened, so we have had our first 3 transfers come in. These 2 we already knew about, as I mentioned on a previous episode. They've now come in at so we've got Ryan Elebiosu on 2-star current ability, 4.5-star potential ability. It's still very rough around the edges. Got some okay physicals. I think he'll come in as one of the youngster kind of backups to Ginelli, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do as he develops through the season. We've then got Emmanuel Adebayi, who's come in on 2-star current ability. He's now jumped up to 4.5-star potential ability. He was actually only on, I think it was 3.5 or 4-star when we scouted him, but he's come in again very similar to Ryan, except he's now playing. He's in central midfield. Again, some decent physicals and some really nice kind of standout attributes for that age, such as determination, vision, some nice work rate and technique. So he's got a good basis there, but definitely again quite rough around the edges, and something we can hopefully train him into a half decent central midfielder. One that you didn't know about. This has happened in between the last time I was on camera and now. We've got Reece Cole, who we brought in actually for a 0 on a free from Partick Thistle. He's come in as another central midfielder, 22 years old, 2.5-star current ability, 4-star potential ability. Not quite as many outstanding kind of attributes as the other youngsters in some areas, but I think a more general all-round midfielder at the age that he is at 22. He's come in at £220,000 straight away. He's only on £1.5 grand a week. So for a backup Championship player, I think he's going to be decent. He's come in actually ahead of Agogo and Circum who will be leaving, and then also got Ed Upson and Clark who will be ahead of him in central midfield. Currently only at League 2, but could improve a slight amount in the future. So hopefully can be a good squad player for us. In terms of staff transfers, we've brought in a couple of upgrades. We have Steve McCall, who's come in as one of our new scouts. He actually comes in from Colchester, having been their scout there. He comes in as a definite upgrade, and we've got a couple of other positions, as the board have allowed us twice as many scouts this season, going from 2 to 4. So we're looking to bring a few more, especially one of ours has already retired. We've now got a technical director. Angus Frederick, who's come in. He's come in to take on the role that our director of football was playing last season in terms of dealing with staff contracts and the hiring and firing of the under-23s and the under-18s staff, which I delegate to him, and I deal with all the staff from the first team perspective. So he comes in. We've then got a new chief data analyst who was definitely an upgrade on our previous one. I think the previous one was 8 or 9 almost across the board on here. So he's definitely a decent upgrade. And then we've got a new head of youth development. As much as we did have a couple of good youth players come through, I couldn't quite turn down this guy, Jed Roddy. Has come in, working with youngsters, is 20, 16 and 17 on ability and potential, and so hopefully he's not quite got the tactical side of things to compare with what I would normally play, but I'm hoping that his ability will definitely provide us an upgrade when it comes to what we can see in March's youth intake next year. In terms of outs, obviously we've got Enda Barron, who I said there we go, 8, 8 and 11. He's obviously gone out, he's been replaced by Zahir Shah, and then we've got Chris Hargreaves, who was our previous head of youth development, has gone as well, and so he's been replaced by Jed Roddy. Right, it's the 23rd of June. The players came back yesterday, and we've had a number of players who have come back in top condition. What I thought now with the players back in, obviously we can start to have a little look at what our team is going to look like for the start of next season. So what I'll do is we go into Dynamics Team Report, Squad Depth. Let's filter out expired contracts. I mean, that definitely does some damage there. If we move them up to 3-star, now this is where the core team is going to sit. We've actually got the makings of our core team from last season. So we've got Jacola in goal, Holmes, Dennis. We've then got Kilgore, Harries and Davis for central defence. That's our central defence done. Mark Little on the right. We've then got Gogo, Clark and Upson. They are going to be our central midfield. And then we've got Barrett on the left, Ginelli on the right, and then Clark Harris up front. So actually that is likely to be our starting 11, which is nice because it means we only have to fill in the gaps behind. If we then look at, let's bring it down to 2-star, and we start looking at some of the extra players. So we've got James Daly, who is a 20-year-old. He can play on the wing and also play up front. So 2-star current ability, 4-star potential. Here's Kieran Phillips, who's likely to be on the bench, and Clark Harris is back up for this season, as he did particularly well last year. We've got Zane Walker and Tomlinson on the left. We've then got, again, Zane Walker and Thompson to back up Ginelli on the right. In central midfield, we've then got Reece Cole, was our new acquisition, who came in about 2 weeks ago. So he comes in as a backup for Upson and Clark, with Matthews again in there. I think, do we have anybody else? And then we've got Joe Budd, who is one of our youngsters, 2-star current ability, 4-star potential ability, 17 years old, unlikely to get near the first team this season, but is hopefully going to develop nicely in some of the mentoring groups. And then at the back, Luke Leahy is going to be going. He is currently transfer listed and wanted by a couple of different clubs, so there's a good chance that he's going to be going. So we'll look to bring in a backup left back. We've then got so Mark Little can also play in the middle. We also got a couple of youngsters who are less than the 2-star on here, but will better play as backups. And then we've got on the right hand side, we've got Luca Hall. Josh Hare is going to be going again. We can play Kilgore out on the right hand side, but we've got Luca Hall. Josh Hare is going to be going. He has been complaining about wanting to leave. I'm not going to push him. If he is wanted by a couple of different teams. If he goes, great. If he doesn't, if he stays, he'll end up being backup for Mark Little. And then we've got Geordie, and also I believe Liam Armstrong, who is, if I bring it down again to 1-star, there we go, Liam Armstrong, who is our youngster, as backups for Jacola. And even bring it down to 1-star, we've then got players like Josh Bailey and Luke Noble, players who will be able to back up for Tom Davis in central defence. So I think maybe a couple of extra youngsters. I don't think we necessarily need to spend much money unless something particular comes up. So unless something exciting really happens, more than likely the next time you see me will be my favourite day of the year, which is the 30th of June. That is when contracts end, and the 1st of July is free transfer day. It's now the 1st of July is free transfer day. It's been quite a quiet transfer so far. We've not had a massive amount. We have got, though, the list of all the players that have now left. So we've got Alex Rodman, Andre Jr. is one of our goalkeepers, McCormack, who's going to retire soon anyway. Other players of note, Circum's left, Nichols came back off his loan, has left. Menyezi, Kavanga, Hardgreaves. There was a couple of other youngsters in there as well, all of which hadn't really developed as much as we were hoping they would. Cool. So I'm going to have a sift through all the free transfers I can find. See if we can try and bring in any players. So I said, if I go and look at the squad depth view, we're definitely going to be looking at bringing in a backup left back, probably a backup right back as well. I think we're okay for backups on pretty much everything else. Maybe bring in one, maybe slightly better quality striker to back up Clark Harris, but Phillips I think is definitely going to do a job there. So I think it'd be really our fullbacks where we're looking to get some backups. Right, it's the 15th of July. In real life, it's actually the following day, as you can see by the change in t-shirt. For context, I normally record these on a Sunday afternoon. However, I was at this transfer window for around 4 hours yesterday, and so had to abandon it once it got quite late in the evening. So I've now carried on to the following day, but I will venture on nonetheless. So I said, we're on the 15th of July now, and thought I could take you through some of the transfers. There's not been a massive amount of incomings and outgoings. There have been in terms of free trials. I mean, if I show you the player trials, I mean, I'm not even sorry, but it is a disgusting list. The amount of players we've been bringing in, just trying to find the best free trial lists we can from what comes up on my scout reports and what's been available through kind of team releases and stuff like that. So, start with the outs. We've had Gavin Riley has gone to Livingston, 2.2k. A lot of these are just getting something from these players. He was due to leave at the end of June anyway, so getting anything for him was a bonus. Michael Kelly went on a free to Partick Thistle, and he went at the end of his contract. And then Luke Leahy has gone to Shrewsbury, and he went for a eye-watering £26,000. But again, it's at least you've got something for him rather than him going on a free. So we know about the top three. They were planned before the transfer window began. Our first transfer in was Kevin Long. He is a 29-year-old Irish centre-back, formerly of Burnley. Brought him in on a free straight away. He shot up to £7.5 million, which is absolutely insane. He is on 2k a week, which is also insane, but I see him slotting almost straight into the starting team. He's 6'2", 4-star current ability, 4-star potential ability. This is unlikely to improve, but he's a good player for most championship sides, and him and Kilgore should be a strong back two with Harry's dropping to back up. This does open also the possibility with having three good centre-backs of the option of maybe doing a back three with wing-backs, especially if we're maybe playing a more defensive formation this season, as we're likely to be the underdogs in majority of games. So we'll be training that as the season goes on, but we won't necessarily use it as our main formation. I don't want to rock the boat too much, as we did have quite a good winning formula last year. Second player to come in, this is one for the future. Ben Winterbottom, 18-year-old English goalkeeper, 2-star current ability, 4-star potential ability. He's come in to be another backup. We've got a couple already. Obviously, we've got Geordie, who is our main backup, but aging slightly. And then we've got Armstrong, who doesn't quite have the same potential, and there's a good chance he'll probably be leaving at the end of his contract. So bringing in someone like Winterbottom is a nice, hopefully, a development opportunity of the future. And with things like teamwork 16, work rate 16, even a half-decent determination attribute, will hopefully see him in good stead. Next, we have Josh Grant, who is again another free transfer, formerly of Chelsea, and he's been on loan a couple of times in League Two, not played a massive amount. So he is a Jamaican centre-back, 21 years old, 2.5-star current ability, 4.5-star potential ability. Again, it's another player for the future. He's there as a nice youngster backup. We've got a couple of youngsters now who can fill out the under-23s and hopefully provide us with some nice opportunity to develop from within. George Thomas, this is our backup that we were looking for to Clark Harris. He's a 23-year-old Welsh striker, formerly of Leicester. He's been out on loan again a couple of times, but not played a massive amount, not scored a massive amount either, more worryingly. But he is coming in as a backup to Clark Harris. He normally plays as a pressing forward, which is exactly like Clark Harris, and he's 3-star current ability, 4-star potential ability. So for a free transfer, that's not bad business at all. But he'll be one of our main strikers, I think, sitting on the bench. But what's quite nice is you can play all on the attacking three behind the striker, and maybe even in central midfield if we do get desperate for central midfielders. Then finally we have Eden Connolly. Is a very much a youngster for the future, 17-year-old Irish left back. 2-star current ability, a full 5-star potential ability, be it with one of them being black stars. But he's got some really nice attributes which stood out to me. 14 on his tackling, 12 on work rate, 16 decisions, and bravery is 20. He's small, but I'm hoping he's going to develop a little bit more pace and acceleration as he gets a little bit older. But I really do feel that he is going to, if we can develop him properly, he is hopefully going to be a little star for us in the future, and one that we can really start to bring up. Currently, he will sit as the backup to Holmes Dennis. We haven't actually found another left back yet, so he will be a backup to Holmes Dennis. Hopefully, we might be able to bring up maybe a slightly more established backup to Holmes Dennis. But I'm happy with developing the youngsters, as I've said previously, and so he will be the backup for him. Right, so we still got a number of trialists still at the club. I'm going to continue rooting through them and picking out the ones I feel that are going to do well in the squad, but maybe even ones that we might possibly be able to develop and sell on, as really we do need some form of revenue to be coming into the club, but also hopefully be able to provide us with slightly more depth than we had last season, because the squad was very paper thin. Right, we've made another signing. This could actually be up there with one of the better signings we've made this summer. Levi Lumeka is an English left winger, plays as an inverted winger, and as we know from playing last season, I do like an inverted winger. 3.5-star current ability, 5-star potential ability, some nice pace and acceleration attributes, good technique, good flair, so he's quite a skillful player. Comes in from the Portuguese second league after having been there for a year and was then released. I have been trying to find what was wrong with him. I don't know why they didn't keep him, but if he does come in and if he is able to live up to his attributes and his ratings and things like that, I think he'll be absolutely fantastic. The only thing I would say is it does push Walker slightly further down the chain, but it now means we do have Ginelli on loan with Barrett and Lumeka as our three options for wingers, with a couple of youngsters as their backups. So that is it. It is the 30th of July. The transfer window has just slammed shut, and one thing that has struck me almost immediately, I think we're going to struggle. We're spending £98,000 a week. I didn't even get close to spending the £105,000 that I was given. I mean, we'll call that a bell curve when you look up the top, and West Ham, Crystal Palace, Stoke, West Brom, teams who have been in and around the playoffs, the Premier League over the last kind of couple of seasons. I mean, the average outlay is 400,000. We're not even 25% of that. We are going to struggle. We didn't bring anybody else in. We had a few more trialists come in. No one really that was a duplicate of what we had already. One thing I did discover is my director of football is awful. I don't know if I'll look maybe to replace him at some point. He has okay judging player ability and potential, and okay negotiating, but he was bringing in utter trash all summer. The amount of I've given him the opportunity to at least look to bring in some players, and luckily I didn't allow him to finalise any, because we'd have had a bloated under-23s with nothing but rubbish in it. The only other thing that has changed since I went over the transfers a couple of in-game weeks ago was Josh Hare has moved on. He's gone to Sunderland for £250,000. He wasn't going to be part of the team. He was a player who was looking to move on anyway. I wasn't really expecting much money for him. So to get 250k is something that I was very happy with, and definitely takes a chunk out of our debt. We have actually done really well, I think. Even just this month, we've had a profit of £739,000. A lot of that is obviously season tickets. We've had a couple of sellouts against a couple of Premier League sides we played in friendlies over the summer as well. I will go over this in full as a little bit of a roundup of what's happened over the summer in the next episode. Thought I would just cover off obviously who we'd signed, and thought I would just tie this off quite nicely at the end of the transfer window. And one final thing I would say, even though we have brought in a couple of players, I would say that the starting 11 will look very similar last season. We have looked really competitive against some higher league sides, and I'm not necessarily going to think we're going to tear up trees next season, but I think we can be competitive and in the games we need to against teams that are going to be in and around us in the relegation zone, and I think we'll give a good account for ourselves next season. So if you have actually got to this point in the video, thank you very much. Really, this was a little bit of a trial to see how the transfer windows would work on a video. It has taken me far longer than I'm willing to admit to try and get through this transfer window. So whether I do it in the next season will be something I'll have to look at. But if you have enjoyed that, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified of any new videos coming out every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And this Friday will of course be the first games of the season against Brentford and against Birmingham. And thank you very much for watching.